So let's get started. So I'm going to start off the announcements. The most important announcement is that on the 29th of July will be the last day that my brushes are on sale as they are right now. So they were on sale for four for the price of 3. So if anyone is interested in having these brushes, I also have a video that I just posted. So istebrak.com, and go to the store tab to find them. And to see the latest video, it's just on my channel, videos right here, and I talk about what the brushes do, what they're all about, what my intentions were designing them. So if you want a little bit more information before committing to buying them, the information is all in the latest video that I have. So final week of, or second latest after today's class. But final week of brush bundle sale. The sale ends July 29th, Sunday at midnight. The reason why I'm no longer putting it up on sale is because it's been on sale for like 6 months, 4 for the price of 3. So if anyone is interested at all in owning my brushes in the future, this is like the last time I'm going to do such an extended sale for them. I do appreciate when people, I appreciate that not everyone can afford brushes, so that's why I try to keep things as generous as possible, as lenient as possible. I provide them for free if you are good note takers after classes, because other students can go to those notes and reference the class and get like some quick notes or most important fundamentals, or all to write those back to me phrases that I put up. So I really appreciate when you guys give back to the community by taking notes. That's why I reward with brush bundles and brushes. Really good note takers get bundles. If you're, if you can't afford that, you have always that route to get the brushes as well. Just join class and write some notes. But for those who want to support, those who are interested in owning their copies and want more of a guide on how I use them and why I use them and why I made them and what were my intentions, and there's some exclusive Patreon only content that I've used for the video to show you some of my process. So a really important video for Patreon, the front view portrait that I did a while back. The process for that is in this video. If you guys want to go catch that, and I'm using all my brushes in there. So yep, there's that. And then there is Patreon. I don't think you guys have any time, because the 7th is going to be our Patreon meetup. So if you want to attend the private live stream, you can sign up as an apprentice. But the extensive lesson is going to be based off homework. So if your work might not get looked at, if you don't have any work, or it's not complete. If it's not complete, if you don't have work, there's nothing to look at. But if it's not complete, I might not be able to look at it, but you can still attend the session if you're interested in that, because there's 2 weeks left for homework. It might be enough for some people to complete all the homework for the apprentice tier. But if you're interested in supporting, even just as a watcher, which is a $1 patron, you can do that as well. You always have that option. And finally, I don't know why some people don't know how to submit stuff for my critique hour. Yes, I accept traditional, as long as, why would it's hard to go back and fix traditional work. It's easy to fix digital work. So if you can go digital to learn all your stuff. Don't waste all your money on paint, on all the mistakes that you're going to be making. That's usually my, I go into traditional when I know I'm good enough to deserve the traditional tool, because I make mistakes a lot and I don't want to do that permanently. Yeah, that's nice to have old copies of your stuff anyway. But yes, I accept traditional work, and to submit it, just go to istebrak.com and click on the Google Plus icon. It'll take you straight to the community. Join, read the rules. The announcements are up here. And then finally, we have a poll up that I kept up for a week or so, or something like a week. And it is 4 days ago. And it is a reflection of our future challenge coming up. So please vote. The future challenge will be based off these track and field events. The design concept will be based on the winning poll category. No other information will be provided until the winning category is chosen. So javelin has been chosen. Javelin images, is this, throwing the spear. One that I really wanted to win. I really wanted pole vault to win. So pole vault looks like this. Okay, all right, so this is pole vault. What it is, all right, officially letting you guys know that the track and field events you guys chose are going to be reflections of a character and their environment. So a character is going to be working around an unusual environment, and the what they're using to perform the sport is what they're using to get around their environment. So pole vault would be like getting a pole that you're vaulting, the spear, and throwing it an extensive distance, and attached to that spear would be a rope, and that's how you're crossing your landscape. So it's not a weapon, it's not a matter of self-defense, though it can be. Pole vault was very similar. Really, really high, steep, rocky landscape, and a native community to that landscape, or native tribe, that's how they get around. It's like a hunter-gatherer tribe. It's going to be a very, very specific aesthetic that you guys are pulling from. It's not going to be, just do anything you want. It's going to be a very, very specific type of community that or tribe that I'm going to be providing you references for this time. So you're going to have to design the body type around the athlete's body type that does this kind of track and field event, which is an Olympic sport. The pole, let's say pole vault 1, you'd be designing the environment for which that pole vault was needed. So that's where you come in. That's where your design comes in. That's how you incorporate it in. I won't provide too many references for the kind of environment you're dealing with, but it's minimally character design, maximizing environment design. Okay? So I'm trying to keep it interesting and fun, but Javelin 1. So Javelin will be very similar to the kind of environment I can see for pole vault, but pole vault is more of a steep environment, whereas Javelin would be a wide environment, like long jump, for instance, was also going to share that. Kind of like a wide gap between different plateaus of rock structure. It can also be a way to reorganize the environment around them, like damaging stalactites or stalagmites or something like that, so that they can get across. It can be a kind of aerial sport, like they're on a flying animal of some kind, or some kind of transportation method, but that's all up to you. What I'm going to be providing you with is the character details, as well as what's required for the environment, but I'm not going to be giving you environment details. I will give you lots of inspirational work and lots of mandatory reference work. Yeah, you're going to have to draw these positions. So if you guys have any questions, please ask me now. But yeah, you will be expected to submit a character design sheet. You're going to be expected to submit lots of references, a mood board, and gesture practice. And I'm going to give you guys a good amount of time to complete this, probably 2 months. It's a really extensive illustration. We're talking about, a portfolio piece that is in a vertical canvas, that is in an that is in a vertical or horizontal canvas. Actually, both are fine because it's a vertical. Some of these environments climb vertically, so it'd be cool if you guys had a vertical book cover type environment. But yeah, and it's going to be fully rendered corner to corner. Everything is expected, just like the option for the ancient weapon design or the conversation with the dragon. All those were expected as fully rendered. And that's it, I think, for announcements. So brush sale, final week to own my brushes in the bundle that they are on for sale, and this is the upcoming challenge, so I'll submit that very, very soon for you guys. And yeah, let's get started with today. So let me bring these in here. Okay. Alright, so for this piece, I was going to, how did I come up with these great ideas? They're amazing. Thank you. They just come to me. I'm just a genius. No, I was thinking about, I don't know, I was just thinking about how to give it a challenge that was both an environment and character design instead of having one or the other. And that's how you kind of keep the character related solely to the environment. And it's just, interaction, and it kind of just popped in my head. I'm not really sure exactly what was my exact train of thought, but that's kind of where I was mentally. Is that a good answer? Am I being too specific? I don't know. Sounds great, but kind of hard. Yeah, it does sound a little hard. Yeah, it does sound a little tricky. Would be nice to get some extensive how to paint environment class. We don't really have many of those. Yeah. The brushes will be available after a week, but they won't be available for the price they are right now. So they'll still be available on my store, but it's the last week to get the brush bundle at its current price. This price goes back up. That's what that means. It doesn't mean my brushes are no longer available after a week. All right, so let's get started. For this piece, I'm just gonna go straight in. No more questions. Please focus, and if any creepers or stalkers or racist a-holes calling me camel jockey or something ridiculous pop, I mean, I am a camel jockey, but it's not your business. Please block them. Thank you. There were camels at this fair nearby us. Anyways, so I'm just going to grab the environment in the background. You probably can guess what I'm about to do, which is going to be for the story here that you're telling. So what happened, you know, when you decided on the light environment? Because right now the character is lighter than the environment, which is a bad idea. The background should be lighter, much lighter, and the character should be much darker. And the reason that is because right now your character is not reading as mysterious at all. There's just so much light. And if he was a kind dude, then the way you drew his claws, the way you set him up, it seems like we haven't gone past the fact that he's might be dangerous. We're still at the might be dangerous. All right, so just take a look at what happened as soon as we darkened him. We added that mystery. We're going to be looking at a lot of glowy eyes today. Okay, I'm going to darken the top just a bit. Not that much. Good job on the light environment and the colors. When the colors of the light environment, not so much the light environment itself. Seems like it's a little bit off. I'm also going to just try to brighten the base here. And then this shadow that you've got going on. This is a really, really sharp, dark shadow. But it's a really, really kind of like overcast type environment under the forest. That doesn't make much sense to call it overcast, but it doesn't make much sense that it's having a sharp shadow where there's no immediate light. So you had an immediate light before, but at the same time that wasn't serving the painting, and the shadow was so black. But you had a really, really grassy, bright surface. So on my recent hiking adventures, I've developed new injuries. One of them is, well, no, I've been working out really hard. One of them is I've broken my toe. I don't know how I did this. I just broke it. It's broken. It's so weird. Like, I've had so many injuries this summer so far because I've just been ruthlessly kind of trying to stay active, and at any opportunity, like, say no to any hike. Don't say no to any hike or any opportunity to hike. So I've been kind of testing my limits a great deal, and I just broke my friggin' toe. My big toe. I don't know how I managed to do this, but it really hurts to walk, and I'm just like limping everywhere. But yeah, it's not such a bad break. I don't think they can do anything about it, but it's like official. I know for sure it's broken. So yeah, Mama Brack is getting lots of injuries. I'm gonna need some get well soon cards. I'm gonna need some fan art. I'm gonna need a lot of attention. Joking. I'm also gonna add this really, really strong kind of like fog. Not a fog, more like the environmental particles, shifted grass, because this guy's just like moving through the swamp-like surface. And I'm just gonna throw it all over the base so it feels like he's kind of emerging from it. I'm also gonna throw it in other areas around him. And what you've done really is all to do with framing as well. There's only so much I can mess around with here to pull this off for you. A lot of this, I'm sorry if you guys hear that fucking fly, because you should have had the camera much lower. So I'm going to darken the hand. because the hand is getting closer to the foreground environment. Art reminder, don't die. Fan art of a broken toe. It's okay, it's okay. It's much better. It's weird. I kind of completed a hike on it the other day, and I think that fixed it, kind of like set it back into place. I'm not even sure how I managed to do the hike, but I'm so sorry if you hear that fly. I hope Abu is watching so that he can come here and kill the fly for us. Alright, so now what I'm trying to do is separate the the belly area, the lower belly area from the foreground. So this whole torso, and separate the leg from the arm. Did I say ground? Arm. I'm so sorry. I'm really scatterbrained right now. There's a lot of stuff to do. See how the arm is getting closer now? Because it's darker. So again, we're not treating the object as like its own little doing whatever it wants. We are treating it as one large object, a part of an environment. And the arm is reaching forward. So Abu has not yet heard our call for help. Alright, so see what it does when the environment is brighter? Holy God. When the environment is brighter than the character, we can look how much brighter we can make it, and it'll still work. See that? And it still works because the character is the carrier of the mystery, not the background. The background is just the environment, misfortunate enough to be in the illustration, sharing the focal point with the character. Another thing you want to do is shift the values. So duplicate the layer. Hey, don't spray me with Raid, eh? And well, he got a spatula. Please don't use a spatula on a fly that was born of dung. He licked the spatula. So I'm going to cool down the environment to more of a blue-green, but I'm going to delete at the eyes so they can go back to that yellow-green. He kind of has a smile, and that's okay. The smile isn't that bright that the arm should be lit up. I think that was either me or that was you. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know where it went. The fly is a fan. I don't know where it went, dude. That's okay. Alright, and then right here at the top, you're using these really strong edges. Like I'm not sure why, like these little small lines, these little furry bits. This is the edge of the canvas. You really should, these sharp objects. You're attracting all the attention towards the edge of the canvas, which isn't a good idea. Actually, I'm going to select this and go all the way back to before I merged, because the top of this should be nice and dark. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, baby. Alright. See that? And this hand, guess what happens to this hand? Bye-bye, hand. Goes back into the distance. Not that much. Not that much at all. Alright, we're using atmospheric perspective to create the feeling that one section is forward and one section is back. The fly's back. Okay. And then you have all this other ground space here behind the dude that you could have added more floor to, but like the forest floor seems to end where his feet end, and that's narcissism right there. All right, the character isn't that important that the environment has to end when where his feet are. I mean, no. And I call it narcissism because it's not really narcissism. It's like more you giving the character more importance than it really needs. It's like this character is like, oh my gosh, everything is about me. It's not. So I've added some space behind him. That's added some depth. So adding anything behind the character with atmospheric fade applied means that the character is no longer number one. It means that there's more behind him. Of course, the character is number one for the painting, but physics, it's not number one. Compositionally, yes, Other than that, it's not number one anymore. The light is number one. The environment is number one. And I'm just going to add some more little base fog here and there. Some more of the shifty stuff that's been shifting around. So all the brushes that I'm using right now are my brushes. And if anyone's interested in owning these brushes, just head over to my store. They're not going to be on sale after one more week. I feel really bad about that. If you feel like you need to add some light, you can add some gentle reminders that this guy's got some muscles. Just gentle reminders. Nothing crazy. Just little pieces here and there. Nothing intense. Just anything to represent the muscle structure. Alright, something gentle. Just be gentle. I don't know what's going on with me right now. Okay, and if you feel like you have to bring in that God ray, take it easy. Stop being so cheesy with it. Right, take it easy a little bit. Use a soft light, gently moving down. Just nothing intensive. And remember, when you add this, show's over for everything else. Now suddenly it's all about this hand. So this little hand can be, I mean, not about the, about the light. So this hand is no longer really number one. I'm going to extend the nail of this hand. It's just bothering me that it's not breaching the palm. Alright. And the hand itself can also have atmospheric perspective applied to it. This is tons of opportunities to have so much fun with this. Alright. Alright, so the palm has a bit more atmospheric perspective on it. Just where the hand palm is furthest. And you're just like building block by block. It's really not that difficult to figure out what's in front of what, is it? Does anyone here have trouble figuring out what's in front of what? I mean, you should be able to figure out, you know, if the arm is in front of the forearm, or if the forearm is in front of the upper arm, or if the leg is in the back, it's further than the leg, or I mean the arm is as far as the leg or something like that. You guys should be able to figure this kind of stuff out. If you have trouble with that, then it might be, you know, that's some severe stuff. So if you know what's in front of what, and you know what you want in the foreground, what you want in the background, then just decide what you want in the most foreground, and that will be the darkest you go. And then the farthest, that'll be the lightest you go. It's not that hard, is it? I know I make things look easier than they really are, but may look easier than they really are, but they are as easy. Okay, and this is if you really have to add that light. You don't really have to add it. And then, just to add more mystery to this mysterious boy, I don't know why the brush isn't increasing in size anymore. I don't know what this means. Yeah, Photoshop is really shitting on itself. Oh, I really need to figure out what's wrong. Alright, I'm just going to darken the top half. Just slightly, seeing how much I can get away with before we lose the environment. Another thing is that it's really cheesy to make both eyes glow. So just choose the one you want to glow the most. And instead of giving it the smile, I would do an upside down smile. So then it'll won't look like Baymax anymore, Baymax or whatever. Stupid design. I watched Big Hero 6 the other day, and I gotta say, that is some cheesy shit. We're different for the sake of being different. We're so charming. And it was just, ugh. You know, it was so ugh. I know some of you might enjoy it, and I'm being a total B for, you know, bashing it, but go and watch it and just, it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy, and there's specific moments that I can refer to, but I don't remember them. But if we watch it together, I would like pause it and tell you guys, okay, that was super cheesy. Okay, that totally sucked. It's just, I don't know. Are they hiring like artists behind this, or are they hiring too many artists? Which one is it? Are there too many artists working at the same time on these movies? I don't know. And I'm just going to bring in this lighten layer. Where are you? Lighten. Oh my gosh. And just throw it on the top half, just like that. It was really, really cheesy. Just the way they you know, did some characterization, and yeah, it's like obnoxiously, yeah, exactly, that's the word, obnoxious. It was just so desperate to be different. I'm going to shift things over into blue one more time because it's dark. It's a dark scene, so it needs some cools. And I'm going to get the lighten layer on a really, really warm yellow. So moving closer here, and that's the warm yellow that I use. I'm going to use like a rough brush, and I'm just going to throw it, not lighten layer, I'm just going to throw it over the foreground where the character will be occupying, that the character will be occupying. And I'm going to throw in a little highlight, just wherever that little spotlight moves in. And I'm going to darken outside of the spotlight with that cool environment green. All right. Okay, so the character can be half in, half out of the light as well. That would be really, really cool. But let's take a look at the before and after. Before, see that? It wasn't doing much. Even if you had one half of him dark, it still wasn't doing much. After. Now you have a real environment. Now you have a plate of values you can start detailing if you need to. And you can start detailing them along an appropriate light source. It doesn't look like you put a lot of work into detailing this. Honestly, this is the illusion of detail. Remember, this may look detailed to you. But trust me, it is not. It's just contrast tricking you. All right? It's just evil contrast tricking you into thinking that this is detail. It's not. Detail is edge work. Detail is contrast, but after edge work has been applied. Detail is fine shrinking detail, but only after edge work has been applied. But here you depended on contrast and the stippling brush, and you got detail, but it's the illusion of detail. You want to get more detail. Maybe like bring in a nice edge here. Not as sharp as the focal point, but sharp enough that we can appreciate the arm a little bit better. And as we move down, we get more and more muscle structure highlights. And then as we move down, we get super highlights on the arm. And then super, not highlights, super detail on the arm. And then super detail on the character, moving back up to the face, which we also can detail. Also the face, it doesn't really match. But again, it's your design. It's your design voice when it comes to the character. So I'm not going to, you know, offer different ideas for the portrait. Illusion of detail, like pants are an illusion. So for this piece here, let's go to Portrait Studio for some fun. It's raining really hard. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Okay. Just waiting for Portrait Studio to respond. My computer's just been exploding recently. Okay, so when we have I forget how, okay, there we go. When we have a and delete, yes, a light source that moves so strongly that we can see the shadow that low, and we compare it back to yours. The shadow's at the tip of her chin, but your shadows aren't really moving in that direction. There's if I match the eyes, let's match the eyes. It means the shadow of the nose moved all the way this way. But your nose is perfectly balanced. Straight down the middle, kind of to the side. Alright, so it's kind of to the side, but half the face is lit on one side? What? So half the face is light, nose is perfectly down. For half the face to be light, the nose is moving in another direction. So what's going on, buddy? What's going on with this? What's the break in the space-time continuum that light bends in unusual ways and stays inconsistent like this? Why is the light source so hard to track? Is it being bent? Are pictures being morphed? Is there 10 black holes affecting reality at the same time? What's the reason why there's, you know, these inconsistencies? All right? So not only do the eye socket values have to be very, very dark, the contrast needs to be way lower. You need to choose a better light environment. What's darker, the character or the background? You need to make that decision. And then we have the nose shadow and the face shadow. Really, really, really inconsistent stuff. So I'm going to let you fix that. I'm going to keep an eye on the community and see what you post. See if you post the link. If you post the fixed version. But yeah. Okay. This senor right over here. So look at his nose shadow. Where does his nose shadow move? Really, really, really far down. So I'm not even going to use Portrait Studio for this. I'm just going to go straight in. This whole business right here should be much darker. In fact, it looks even creepier without the eyes. Alright, so I'm going to get this layer and move back. And then just start shaping out some of these cast shadows, and I'll smudge them later. Right, a little bit lighter on the nose. And then merge to, oh my god. Oh my god, isn't that freaky? Jeez Louise. Okay. I'm haunted forever. I'm just starting to blend away the shadow, so I'm creating regions. The soft light on the nose is kind of setting it up so the shadows I do apply have to be a bit softer. They're not sharp cast shadows. Okay. And then, might not do all the pieces today, so please don't take it personally if I don't get to your piece. I just, you know, choose a selection and then work with it. And then there's the illumination on the singular eye. And trust me, just trust me, you don't need that much illumination. Alright, you just need a little bit. The eyes weren't even looking in the same direction, honestly. You just need the tiniest little amount. And then I'm going to select all, paste, and just start to bring in some like really strong general shadows. Inverse. And these are like the more defined shadows here from the core shapes or the native geometry. And then thinking about some highlights, trying not to value share. This creepy fella is going to haunt all our dreams, remind us to stay consistent with our light sources. What would an art it say? Instead of we all float down here, what would they what would they say? The lip, wherever the light can access, is a bit more bright. Now I'm just thinking about what detail would come through. Maybe a little bit of bounce light. See how I don't even care about the eyes? Because they're not visible technically. And then if you want to, if you have to, throw in some bounce light on the sides. Develop the cheeks a little bit more though. Moving up into the temples. Just diffusing some of this. So this is kind of like the shadows I was talking about. You were showing a bit too much and it wasn't making sense where you were coming from. Okay. So the detail you have here, you could bring it back easily. Just decide on where the wrinkle is going to be, and that would be the dark side. And then make sure you smudge accordingly. And then the top side of the wrinkle is for the farthest half, the highest half of the top part of the wrinkle gets the detail, and you just keep doing that back and forth, building off that detail style. Okay? Instead of just drawing in the wrinkle, you sculpt in the wrinkle. Alright. So, character sheet. Okay. So, CritiqueHour Lark. I don't know how to pronounce any of that. But what you've done here is that you've added gesture to the lower half of the body, but it's really the upper half of the body that should be. Maybe I can do this with liquify. Maybe not. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do. Okay. You know that moment where you're trying to teach and your slip disc is just screaming Bloody Mary? Oh my god, my life is a tragedy. Alright, so I'm just gonna start with the upper body and move that forward, because that gesture needs to happen. Oh, and arcing the body. Take a look at that. Right? Because that's what needs to happen in order for this gesture to make sense. If he is forward haunched, kind of like monkey standing up, we need to see a little more of that. Then the head can look forward. Alright. The thing is, now he's not as tall, so you might want to adjust that. Squid kid. Half squat. Yeah. Yes, I'm so sorry for all the cursing. I do a lot of cursing, and I shouldn't. Alright, filter, liquefy. I tried to make a promise with God that I wouldn't ever again. I kind of broke that promise. I think me breaking my foot is kind of like the karma. If he's fish-based, kind of just try to get that fish silhouette going on. You know, he's not biocular or bifocal or whatever the term is. And he really haunches forward. Neck is nice and low instead of him being fully straight. As for his knees, I don't really know what's going on with his knees. Did I just straighten him back again? There we go. Yeah. And then I'm grabbing that. Alright, so I think that's what you were missing. The body was just too straight. He's a butler, and he's a creature. I mean, and they dressed him up. I mean, I don't know why they expected him to stand up straight. It's unnatural for him to do so if they've already gotten past his face. So I want to just let the guy just be himself. He can still be a pretty good butler. Naturally, you know, just standing up the way he's not supposed to, but is managing to. Alright, so it feels less forced, less stiff, more natural. But this is just one step in the right direction. The texture you used on the guy's face, the outfit, the colors, the light environment, everything's really, really out of sync with each other. If he's supposed to be a royal butler or a prince of some kind, why is he wearing muddy servant colors? Okay. And then this piece. So the colors here are not making sense at all. At all. She's got green subsurface on the side where she should have a shadow. The light source is yellow. The character is a muddy mustard. She's purple in some areas, pure black in others, even though there are three active light sources in the scene. And then she's got the purple crown. Which is it, man? And if there's so many light sources, why is the light environment still so black? Are these bioluminescent light sources? If they are, then why are they so bright that, you know, they're doing this to the ground? The ground doesn't have sharp candle-like shadows, which this should be. It has universal shadows that are very fuzzy and diffused, kind of like sunlight through a thick of clouds. It's not working. So you're going to really, really have to go back and figure this out. One thing I would start with is I would jump into some simple light environment studies where you have one primary and one secondary. If you guys have any questions at all, just at Istebrak in the chat so that I could take a look at them. But do some studies where you have one primary. Let that primary decide on the light environment. Let it decide on the color. Let it decide on the intensity of the light source, the time of day. And then apply your secondary and factor it in. The secondary does not undo the primary. The secondary, it just helps to relieve some of the shadows cast by the primary. But here you have no rhyme or reason. Which core shadow are you trying to diffuse with one of these? I don't understand. Which one is the primary? If there's no primary, you can't have two secondaries of equal strength. That's ugly in a painting. You can't have two light sources of equal strength. It's just disgusting. There's nothing that we know of that we can shine in our daily lives that's brighter than the sun, or you know, something can be brighter than the moon. Nighttime is different, but time of day, daytime is just always the sun is going to be the brightest. So always factor that as the brightest point in your painting, and then move from that. She said she swore to God not to swear again, but then broke her tail, something like that. What? Did you expect a name? What? When he sits down, his knees smash into his face. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Reads more like merchant than butler to me, but mostly just the clothes. Maybe. No two light sources of equal strength. Istebrak, I have a few. As a beginner, should I avoid excessive use of layers, liquefy, lasso, free transform, and other Photoshop techniques? Or is it a rules-only tools situation? Or is it a no rules only tools situation? It is a no rules only tools. Try not to, though there are some exceptions, like any other rational way of thinking about anything else. There's exceptions to every rule. And the rule being no rules, only tools. No rules. That's the rule. But there's an exception to the rule. I'm sorry. That's what's happening. The exception to the layers rule, you may have layers, you may use layers, don't depend on them. You may use liquefy, but don't depend on it. You may use lasso, but don't depend on it. Free transform and other Photoshop techniques, yes. You absolutely have to not depend on eyedropper. Use it, don't depend on it. You may absolutely depend on smudge brush. Absolutely. Because smudge brush is not a mindless technique that you cannot transfer back to traditional. You can't. Because it's smudging. So really not, things may not be as smudgeable in real life, and that's why I encourage you guys to use like 5% on the smudge strength. But smudging is just this wonderful way of reorganizing and thinking actively. For every brush stroke that you make, you're thinking actively about what will be smudged and what will be kept, and what edge will be preserved. So the question to that is, yes, it's a no rules, only tools situation, but there are exceptions. Try not to depend too much on tools, and the most important one to get used to right now is smudging. What would be considered excessive use? When you have like 700 layers and they all have like a mask. When you have, okay, no, I'll give you a realistic number. When you have 17 layers and each of them has a mask applied to it, and some kind of fill or layer adjustment or layer mode, that's excessive use of a layer. If everything that you do, everything is lassoed and transformed, if you're not actually trying to draw the gesture, but you just willy-nilly do whatever you want and fix later with transform and lasso, that's dependency. That's over-dependency. You should be trying to get as much of the fundamentals out of the way early on. Istebrak, the smudge brush agenda. Istebrak, how can you use a dark environment without overblasting values and contrast? It's a problem I've been having, and I think there are a few good examples in today's stream. In a dark environment, there's a cap to how much brightness is in the area. So all you can really do to bring out an interesting environment is to remember that the dark environment is ruled by some kind of light, a realm, by some kind of color. And in that realm, you have to remain. If it's going to be cool, keep it cool. If it's going to be ghoulish and swampy and nasty green, you got to keep it there. And all of the colors are a sub-color of that, an extension of that color. So you got ghoulish blue, that's more a dried out turquoise. You've got really like kind of dirty brownish reds instead of pure reds. You have no yellows. If you do, they're like little fairies that have a really pale yellow. That's for color. That's for light. Why can we see the character? What's allowing us to see the character? How can we even see it? Can we see? Is it a black canvas? Obviously not. What's allowing us to see everything? What color is it, and what's its strength? What's the strength of the light source? If it's a bunch of small little rocks and there's a ton of them, then the environment automatically goes back up. Even if it's nighttime, things can brighten up into one big, like, you know, it's like light pollution. You can just brighten up the environment. But if it's one little fairy and one candle and a glowy eyes, it's going to be a dark scene. You just have to accept it. It might not be midnight. It might be just a little after dusk. I mean, you don't have to make things purely black. Even if things are purely black, you don't paint them like that. You have to bring in your own. Your color says blue, midnight, but your environment says just after sunset or dusk. Because that's what you have to do for us to see what's happening in the painting. So decide what's going to be the brightest object early on. Planning helps you avoid contrast dependency. Write that back to me. How do I start transitioning from grayscale studies to color studies? So start by doing form studies in color. So do a red blob and do a yellow cube and paint it from scratch, and see if you still have a layer mode set up on white, on color mode, so that you can test your values, and see if your values are still good. So paint straight, finish it and start it and finish it in color, the form study, and then see if your values are still good once you're done. If they're still good, you're doing well. As for colors, make sure that you're darkening and lightening in the right way. So dark red is more purple and light red is more orange. So that'll give you a good idea of how to mess around with your colors. If you have to get a reference, get a reference. How do you avoid getting an over hazy diffused effect when using the smudge brush to blend? You're over blending your edges. When you're blending with smudge brush, you are blending so that you don't have to use the eyedropper to blend. You're actually just blending. But what you do before you start blending is a really important end-all and be-all of your painting, which is successful blocking, which is form study. You're actually just studying the straight-up form of the object. So when you're providing more blocks than you really need, later on you'll smudge what you don't need, and you'll be left with the detail and the contrast and the beauty that the edges left behind. So right now you're not blocking enough and you're over smudging. That's why you're ending up with this over hazy effect. I struggle with the technical aspect of painting digitally. I do all right traditionally, but digitally my paintings get muddy very quickly and I have a hard time maintaining edges. Tips? Maintaining edges, it's like saying I have a hard time driving in the middle of the road. I don't know what I'm doing. I have a hard time driving in the middle of the road. No, you got to learn how to drive in the middle of the road. You're going to have to learn how to keep your edges, leave them alone. If you don't know which edges are the right edges, and if you don't know how to keep your edges, it means you don't know what form you're using. It means you don't know if you're painting a prism or a triangle. It means you have no idea what you're doing at that moment with your native geometry. It means you don't know if you're looking at a cube or a pyramid. So if you don't know how to leave your edges alone, it means you don't understand them and appreciate them. You don't know where they're coming from. So that's why you can't maintain the edges. So that said, the stuff getting muddy really quickly on you might be because you have such easy access to black and white digitally than you do traditionally. You don't have pure white. Remember, pure white is a light source. A lot of these issues you guys are having is because you guys are not, punishing yourselves. I mean, it's not punishing. You guys need to be more disciplined, be more strict. A lot of this stuff is like you guys are at the mercy of your own issues. You have to govern the difficulties of your existence, and you got to start by first diagnosing it. I mean, if you have access to white and you just see yourself drawn to using it, fix that. Make it impossible for you to go in there. And it doesn't mean you have to rewire Photoshop so you have no more access to white and black. It means that you, in your mind, stop seeing this as an option. This is not an option. This point down are all options, and it stops right there. Okay? These are your options. It's not an option to use this value or this value. It stops here. Right? These are all the values you can ever need. You can draw a universe with these values. So I hope that helps. I mean, while rendering, my edges get messed up quickly, and just plain look bad. I don't know what you mean. I'd have to see your work. Again, this is all just text. But anytime an issue comes up where a student has problems with their edges, it has to do with their geometry. There's no other thing. Self-control, yeah. It has nothing to, there's no other thing it can be related to that causes such a bad response to your edges other than discipline. The discipline to just not touch them and just leave them alone. Because smudging is really fun, I'll tell you. I love smudging. I love that shit. And I overdid it the first time I got into it. So it might be something that you're dealing with as well. I think that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope I answered all your questions. I'm sorry if I sound distant. I have to lean back on my chair, so I'm in less pain. But for anyone interested in joining the class, you just have to go to istebrak.com, click on the little Google Plus icon to join. The future challenge has been decided as the Javelin, and I will be submitting the resource pack very soon for you guys, and I'll pin it at the top of the community. The brushes, my brushes, will be on sale only for 1 more week. This 6-month sale is going to be done. And if you guys are interested in getting the brushes, they're as cheap as they're ever going to be in a bundle this week ending on Sunday. So go grab your copies, and thank you to everyone who grabbed them and supported our community. For anyone interested in joining the private Patreon lesson this month, it's very similar to what we're doing here, except it's a smaller group, more focused on one fundamental at a time. And it's going to be on Patreon. It'll be submitted, and you guys get the access to it through Discord. There's a private Discord group as well. So if you're interested in supporting on Patreon, just go to istebrak.com and click here. And the store is where you'll find all our brushes and stuff. Thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye!